Hey everybody, just another weekly video here. Great week here in Washington. Had the family with me here all week for the White House picnic, so it's always good when I get to spend extra time with them. We're getting ready to fly home in a little bit here, but do you guys want to say hi? You want to say hi to everybody? Hi. You want to wave to them? Oh, thank you for the Altoid. Yeah. All right, you guys go get mommy. Go on, go get her. Thanks for saying hi to everybody. All right, like I said, it's always good to have the family here. It makes my week that much easier when I get extra time with the family. You know, I think you all can relate to this as parents. This is why we do everything. We do it for our kids. We do it for their future. We do it so that they have more opportunity than whatever the opportunity was that we had in our life. And I am no different in that. They put a smile on my face every day, any day. Every day, you know, when I go to work, I think there are very specific things that I look to do, and part of that is that future for these kids. But beyond that, it's some very specific things that I look to do as a representative here in Washington, D.C. And it's make the federal government more efficient, make the federal government more accountable, make the federal government hopefully spend less of your money. These are all important things to me every single week as I look at what we're doing. This week, we made progress on some of these items with some important jobs bills that will help enable people that are struggling to find work. And on Thursday, we passed the Strengthening Career and Technical Education for the 21st Century Act. That's a long one. Sometimes they're hard to get out there. This bill, it improves career and technical education programs so that more students are equipped to find high-skill, high-paying jobs. So it's a good one. It's a strong step in the right direction to getting more people back to the workforce. So I'm really happy about that one. Then on Friday, we passed the Accelerating Individuals into the Workforce Act. That one, it really works to something important. You know, far too often, I think Washington makes life much more difficult for small business owners. I think there'd be very few small business owners out there that couldn't agree with that. And as a result, qualified employees are often squeezed out of the job market and onto government assistance programs. So despite the fact that the government spends more than $500 billion on anti-poverty programs, these initiatives have failed to solve the problem, and today there are nearly 50 million Americans living in poverty, you know, here in the United States. Leaders in Washington, they need to realize that just throwing money into a failed one-size-fits-all program that's part of the past, it's not producing better results for the future. It has to stop. That cannot be the way going forward. So this bill, this jobs bill, it proposes a radical change that will incentivize small businesses and local employees to help people gain valuable work skills while also giving them, giving businesses the tools and resources that they need to hire some more people. So as a result, we'll see more jobs available, more people qualified to do these jobs, and less people needing to rely on government to pay for some of their bills. And that's what we have to work towards. So I want to speak a little bit about the All Aboard Florida project. This week I had the opportunity to question Mike Reininger, who is the primary executive overseeing the All Aboard Florida projects. All Aboard Florida says that the project is privately funded, but when you really dig into it, that's simply not true. They've received and have been looking for more taxpayer funding. You know, I asked him about exactly this. It was on the Committee of Railroads, or the subcommittee rather, the Subcommittee of Railroads, Pipelines, and Hazardous Materials. I'm not actually on that subcommittee, but I asked if they would allow me to sit in on that subcommittee so that I could participate in the questioning of the All Aboard Florida executives. And his answers were very revealing. You know, they continue to obstruct the truth from citizens of Florida because they don't want you to know exactly what's going on or how much it's going to cost you as a taxpayer. And so in this, we got into a number of different issues about all the different times that they had been out there requesting for taxpayer dollars, from the Orlando station to different public activity bonds and different things, you know, across the gamut, where they're looking for both federal and state dollars. Beyond that, I was interviewing some other, not interviewing, but I was questioning some other individuals that were also associated with high-speed rail, some of them out in the California area and some of them up in the Northeast. And one of the individuals, Mr. Porcari, he's part of the Northeast Gateway Project. He's overseeing that. And I thought part of his testimony was very, very revealing. They have a number of railroad bridges over water as well in that area. And phase one, their number one part of their train project was to completely replace their very much aged aging train bridges that are going over water. So when I asked Mr. Reininger, the All Aboard Florida executive, about this, if he would be replacing the railroad bridges that go throughout our district that are actually going to prevent maritime traffic for up to 45 minutes in a cycle, he completely evaded the question about if they were going to replace them. He didn't address at all whether they were going to be minimizing that major halt to maritime traffic. He did speak a little bit about upgrading some of them, the electronics and things like that on. But I think that answer was very, very revealing. This individual, Mr. Percari from the Northeast, he said very specifically about their projects that it should be a major area of concern that they not bring maritime industry to a halt. And that is exactly what's going on in our area. And that's very revealing about the way All Aboard Florida is going through this process. The other person that was on this panel that I questioned was a Mr. Richard, who's out in California, overseeing the high-speed rail projects out there. And to give you an exact quote from him, that he said, he spoke very much about how at-grade crossings are extremely dangerous, to quote him. At-grade crossings are extremely dangerous, and throughout our district, nearly every single railroad crossing is an at-grade crossing. And out west, they've gone to a number of lengths to try to get traffic and trains away from each other because of just how dangerous it can be to have those two colliding with one another, in a day-to-day basis. And what we're looking at is seeing trains race through our area with absolutely no stops, no need to slow down throughout our area. It's incredibly dangerous. And one of the other points that I also discussed in this questioning was, again, with the executive from All Aboard Florida, and the fact that there are agreements with the various counties for Florida East Coast Rail to not have to maintain the safety equipment and the crossings, that the counties have to actually maintain that. But it's also the fact that All Aboard Florida is now a completely separate entity from the Florida East Coast Rail, but they are still trying to say that they expect that the taxpayers of all of our counties, Martin County, St. Lucie County, Indian River County to the north of us, that the taxpayers of these counties still flip the bill for paying for the maintenance of the crossings and all of the safety equipment. And that's an agreement that doesn't exist with those counties. The agreement exists with Florida East Coast Rail Line and not with All Aboard Florida, who is, as he pointed out in his testimony, now a completely separate entity. So these are some big issues that absolutely need to be brought up. Now, let me just say this. As the process moves forward, I promise that I'm going to continue to have as much information as I can possibly get my hands on. And when I have information, I will make sure that you have the information. You deserve the truth about who is paying for the All Aboard Florida project, and as well as if they're failing to address these critical safety and critical economic concerns like at-grade crossings, major disruptions to our maritime industry. Who's going to pay for those safety maintenance issues and other things like that? I'm going to continue fighting to get you the information and put a halt on these major problems for our community. Shifting gears a little bit for a minute to a quick preview of what's on the agenda for next week. The House is going to be taking a look at the Cates Law and Sanctuary Cities Bill. These are important to our area for a number of reasons. Cates Law is a proposal to increase sentences for criminals with multiple illegal re-entries into the country. And to me, I mean, it's stupid that we have to even work in this way, that I have to talk about a bill for people with multiple illegal re-entries into this country, but that is the state of where we are at. And while the Sanctuary Cities Bill, that would penalize state and local governments that refuse to fully cooperate with federal immigration authorities, Cates Law was named in the memory of a young woman who was shot by an illegal immigrant that had re-entered the country after having been convicted of a separate crime and deported. In our own community, we've had a number of recent tragedies where people were in the country here illegally, they've committed crimes, and they've also done things that have resulted in the death of respected members of our community, to include just recently 2 first responders. I had the chance to speak to some members of these families, and I'm going to be doing everything that I can to prevent this from repeating itself, especially given some of our local towns have decided to designate themselves as sanctuary cities. I personally, I couldn't possibly imagine where I would be at if my wife or one of my children that you just saw, or some friend or some other member of my family had been unnecessarily taken away from me because of somebody that wasn't supposed to be in our country, somebody that broke our laws by either entering our country illegally or overstaying a visa or staying here in a way that they were not invited to do so. These are important issues to fixing our broken immigration system and keeping American citizens safe. Now, I want to end on a high note because, you know, that's something that I know for the families that were affected. That's a tough note to speak about. I spoke with them just this week, and it's the mother that I spoke to. She was very broken up about the fact that her daughter has to go forward with, you know, without a father. And so I want to try to end on a little bit higher note. We had the honor this week of presenting the Congressional Award Gold Medal to 8 outstanding young men and women from our district. And we had an award ceremony here in Washington, D.C. In the district earlier, and 8 of the award winners were able to fly into D.C. for this week and attend the ceremony, and I was able to present them with awards along with a number of other young adults from around the country. This award, it requires a commitment to public service and a devotion to personal excellence. The medalists, they've volunteered hundreds of hours to their communities, and it's been nothing short of inspirational to hear about the many different projects and organizations they've been working with. In Tequesta, there's a young Christian. He made blankets for children in St. Mary's Hospital and painted houses for less fortunate. In North Palm Beach, Nicole spent the past 10 years raising over $25,000 worth of toys for critically ill children. In Palm Beach Gardens, Reese and Caitlin helped the community by volunteering with Habitat for Humanity, while Garrett volunteered with children at the Lighthouse Center and of the Art, and Aisha volunteered her time with, let's see, which one, with Support for Our Troops, with Support Our Troops. And in Jupiter, Brianna worked with the Lupus Foundation of America. So there's some great work that was done there. I'm proud to represent such passionate high schoolers, and these are just the ones that were able to join us this week. There were a number of others that were recognized earlier in the district, and I want to use this time to just thank them for their service to so many different areas. It was a pleasure, again, to recognize these students who are true servant leaders in our community. As always, it's an honor to represent you in Congress, and I hope you all have a great week moving forward.